Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Connecting the Dots. Joining me on today's episode, all the way from Victoria in Australia, is Antoine Seymour, a copywriter and content writer, and he's here to explain how writers can get new clients, something I think most of us are desperate to know. Antoine, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Great to have you, mate. So can you start by giving the viewers some background on you and how and when you got into writing, I suppose?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a 26-year-old, half Australian, half Belgian, freelance copywriter and content writer. And I also teach new freelance writers how to land their first clients. So I started freelancing at the end of 2020 after finishing up my university degree in France. That was during the COVID restrictions. And like everyone, I was crammed inside, locked in a tiny university studio room. And like so many people had done before me, I just went down the YouTube rabbit hole and I just started searching for a way to sort of monetize a skill of mine, and that skill was writing. So I just stumbled across copywriting, and I thought, shit, this is the perfect mix of art and science. And to land my first client, I went into Facebook groups and searched for struggling entrepreneurs sort of in the e-commerce space. And I just go onto their website, sort of do an audit of their website, see what was going wrong, what I could suggest to improve. I'd contact them. I'd sort of basically say I'm building up my digital marketing portfolio, my copywriting portfolio. I didn't really have a clear idea of what I really wanted to offer at the time. And then I'd offer it for like $5 at $5, not free, so that I could link it back to a platform like Fiverr, a freelancing platform, so that the entrepreneur or the buyer would be prompted to leave some sort of public social proof.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, if you can monetize anything and you're good at writing, then it's a no-brainer, isn't it? And I think a lot of people are still trying to search for ways to do that. For all that you see these posts on LinkedIn that talk about making multi-six figures sometimes every month, there are still mere mortals out there who are, in the early stages of their journey, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it could be six figures. I mean, that whole six-figure freelancing crowd it's a little cringe to me because it could be six figures in pesos, it could be six figures in dollars, it could be six figures in anything. A lot of people are just hiding behind a screen, and you're not always honest with what they're saying.
I often find that the people who earn the most are the ones who don't talk about it all that much as well.
Well, yeah, it's the quietest one in the room.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you classify yourself as both a freelance conversion copywriter and SEO content writer. Now, for those who are new to writing or just don't know what the differences are, how do you distinguish between the two disciplines?
So to avoid a migraine, I'm just going to go into content writing and copywriting. We'll leave out the SEO part. We'll leave out the conversion copywriting part. That can be a bit of a headache to understand. So I saw a great quote recently that says, content writing is about priming your audience and copywriting is about converting your audience. So content writing is all about informing, educating, and sort of warming up your readers. The most common forms of content writing would be your articles, your blogs, and they basically just help readers or your audience build a relationship with the business and better understand a specific topic. So when it comes to copywriting, it's all about using words or persuasive messaging to get readers to take specific action. For example, purchasing a product. It doesn't just have to be purchasing something. It could be booking a free consultation, downloading an ebook. And common examples of copywriting include landing pages, sales emails, ads, website copy. Just they're all examples of copywriting.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction to make, because sometimes people will talk about copywriting in the form of blog posts. And unless that blog post is a middle to bottom of the funnel blog post, it's not copywriting. Essentially, it's content writing. And I think that's where people can sometimes get confused between the two. And the last thing you want to do is pitch yourself as a copywriter because you may be new to the industry.
Yeah.
And in reality, you're more of a content writer.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't really clear on their offer, or what they're offering to businesses, and how is a business going to hire you if you're not really clear on what you're doing. So the distinction between the two is really important. And I do both copywriting and content writing just so that I can enjoy the best of both worlds. I don't always want to go hard on the sales, and sometimes I just want to be more informative, write something that's
Yeah.
a little bit a step removed from the sale. And when I want to be closer to the money and see the analytical side of things, I tend to go towards copywriting projects.
I like both. So I love bringing businesses to life and writing homepage copy that really sell a product or service. I really enjoy that part of it. I also love writing blogs that are often people's first impression of a brand. Like that's the initiation to the brand, right? So quite often people will find you through a Google search. It might be, for example, I probably should have thought of an example before I made that point, but let's say something like if I'm writing for a marketing agency and I'm writing about best SEO tools for beginners or something like that, or best scheduling tools for social media copywriters or something like that. Well, if I was writing a blog about that, which I would love to do, by the way, so if any marketing agencies are watching this, please get in touch. But that's great because then it gets people that familiar with your brand from the get-go, and I put that copy together. So yeah, that's why I like both things. I love blogging. I love writing landing pages. I like video sales letters as well. I don't know if you've done many.
VSLs. Yeah.
Yeah, they're something I've started doing more of recently.
Webinars.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But I like ebooks as well. I mean, one of my favorite ever projects I worked on was an ebook on nutrition. Yeah, man. So it really varies, but that's great. Thank you for providing that, because I think a lot of people watching this may not necessarily have known the differences between the two. So what are some of the biggest learnings you've taken from the last 4 years as a copywriter and content writer? What have you learned about the industry, and more broadly, what would you say you've learned about yourself?
A lot of lessons, man. It sounds silly, but writing is a skill that everyone needs to learn, way beyond what we learn or what we're taught in school. Put simply, if you want someone to listen to you, or you want someone to act on what you're saying, learning the fundamentals of copywriting and content writing. Don't forget content writing. That's the way to go. I think, if you're looking just for people to hear you and to sort of take action based on what you're saying, learning the fundamentals of these two disciplines is really, really, really important. And I think regarding myself, I've learned that, put simply, passion leads to purpose. And I love writing, I love teaching, and I'm feeling pretty fulfilled these days, being able to do both.
Yeah, I love passion leads to purpose. That's great. Well, you found both, haven't you? I mean, especially like quite early on in your career as well, because I was looking on your LinkedIn profile and you pretty much went into freelance copywriting and content writing as soon as you graduated from university. Is that right? 2020?
Yeah, I was pretty much down the rabbit hole during my exam period. I was down that rabbit hole while I was studying, and I went freelance straight away, which is something I actually don't advise people to do, because figuring it out on your own is tough. It's possible, but I think first of all, to go into freelancing, you've got to have sort of a safety net. You've got to have some savings. You've got to be prepared to have a period where you don't make any money at all. And I'd suggest going into some sort of marketing-based business first before you go into freelancing. Build your network, build your confidence, and you don't have to sort of figure out everything when you start freelancing.
Yeah, I think it's a good piece of advice. What I would say is, listen, you've gone your own way. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong, but I know and I can only share this from my perspective, it was really valuable for me to have had 5 to 10 years working in marketing, PR, journalism. I'm lucky to be able to encompass elements of all three in my day-to-day work. So yeah, I do think that's good advice, generally speaking. Okay, so this is quite an interesting point that I've got noted down, and I know it's something that we've talked about in the build-up to this. So one thing I found interesting when I looked through your LinkedIn profile is the fact that you've been a freelancer on Fiverr and Upwork for several years now. So the reason it's interesting is because I, like a lot of people, have poured scorn over Fiverr and Upwork, saying, the stereotypes, it's a race to the bottom, you never get any good clients on there, etc. But I've connected with a few people like you who seem to be getting a lot of joy from it, and are working with great clients who aren't paying 1 cent per word. So, so what would you say to that? What would you say to the people who possibly have preconceived ideas about these platforms, and how they've aided your growth as a writer?
The age-old debate, huh? Freelancing platforms or not. So Fiverr and Upwork, they basically, I use them to get the ball rolling as a freelance writer. So as I
Yeah,
mentioned earlier, I use them to collect social proof because people, once you complete a project for someone on either of the platforms, the buyer is prompted to leave a review. And I think that anyone can just go into a Word document and just write a review, and or you can ask your mom, hey, write me a LinkedIn recommendation. No one's gonna know she's your mom. Um, and I think that at that point I really didn't care about the money, although it really wasn't bad at all. I just was happy to sort of build a name for myself, collect some shareable reviews and social proof. And over the years, I've just kept my profiles open. I hardly work on these platforms anymore because they do definitely have their disadvantages. And I just work on passion projects every now and then.
yeah,
So the gigs that I started way back in 2020 was, what was I doing? I was doing taglines and slogans for campaigns for just local businesses, and I thought, okay, taglines and slogans, this is sort of the start of copywriting. Then that turned into writing hooks, and then it sort of flowed from there. But to all the people scolding freelancing platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, and whatever else there is out there are people on these platforms probably making more money than you. So it's I mean, just really, it's another thing that you just have to commit to. There are disadvantages and advantages of everything in life, and if you can make a freelancing platform work for you, then you've made it work for you. I'd say that the freelancing platforms are better when you're just starting out, just to get the ball rolling, because it's basically a marketplace of buyers and sellers, and they're feeding you people looking for your services, whether it be $5 or $500 or $5,000. There's someone that's interested in what you've got to offer, and if you can collect some social proof from that, social proof really does go a long way, because once you've collected that social proof, then it's going to make really cold outreach and client acquisition when you want to go independent a lot easier.
yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that you can repurpose it, can't you? And you can share it on your LinkedIn profile. You can put it on emails to people. Well, obviously, we'll come on to talk about that. But emails to cold prospects, if you like. And I think you made a really good point there as well, that there are people on there who can be financially successful, who can really get a lot of projects from it. Especially, like, if you go on it, you can see the top rated freelancers. In fact, that was one of my sort of hang-ups that I had with it when I started. Actually, was I used it a few years ago, and I thought, well, I don't have any reviews, so how am I supposed to get up the rankings when you've got people on there who have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews? I mean, everyone starts somewhere, right? But
Yeah, sorry to jump in. You just got to be proactive, and that's why I'd go into Facebook groups of struggling entrepreneurs and redirect them back to my profile, because they're search engines in themselves. Those like Fiverr, Upwork, that they are search engines, and just hoping that the stars are going to align and you're going to appear on the first page for your given service
it's really tough.
it's tough. So what I did was just, I don't know why it was Facebook groups. I think it's because I had an interest in starting an e-commerce store or something like that. And I'd go in and see how people are building e-commerce stores. And then I realized, oh, okay, well, there's an opportunity here. People just don't know how to write. Whether they're 20 or 40 or 50, they just really don't know how to write. And if I'm offering a service for basically free, I'm sure they're going to take me up on it. And then I would redirect it back to the platform. And then when I redirected it back to the platform, you'd start climbing in the algorithm with a few orders and projects.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what prompted you to go into coaching other writers? Because I know obviously that's an area that you specialize in a bit more now.
So I guess there's two sides of it. The first side is just laziness. I didn't really know what I was doing on LinkedIn. So I opened up a LinkedIn account years ago, and I just had no idea what I was doing on the platform. At that point, I was just doing freelance copywriting and some content writing, but more copywriting, no coaching at all. And I just started adding connections that were basically my competition, other freelance writers. And I'm thinking, if I'm posting, if my whole network is just freelance writers, I'm not going to sell any freelance writing services. That's a mistake that I see a lot of people making, is that they just purely add their competition. Now, it's good to add your competition and get an idea, take some inspiration, and make that inspiration uniquely yours. But I wasn't connecting with my target audience, local business owners, marketing managers, so on and so forth, that I built a following of, like, I don't know, close to 1,500 to 2,000 freelance writers in my network. And I thought, okay, well, I've got years of experience. I've got a network that's perfect to just start coaching new freelance writers. I've been in the game for a few years now. Why don't I offer some coaching services instead of just starting a completely new network and contacting business owners, decision makers for my personal writing services? I thought, why don't I just start coaching? I see a lot of shitty advice on these platforms, and I think that I can add some value to people who are serious about kickstarting their career as a freelance writer. And I guess the other side of it is just the wave of shit I see on, excuse my language, the wave of shit I see on social media platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, or X for the cool kids. Social media, it's just a breeding ground for comparisonitis, and it just feeds imposter syndrome. That whole 6-figure freelancing community is that's why I said it's just a bit cringe. So when I see someone that feels like they can't really achieve something, I get a lot of fulfillment, helping them change their mindset and helping them take action to strive to, achieve a goal of theirs. And in my case, that's helping new freelance writers land their first clients.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's exactly the same thing as I'm trying to do right now. A lot of the content that I put out there is targeted at writers, because our long-term goal is to coach them. And I have got a training course ready to go out pretty soon. Interestingly, I did have a DM from somebody who shall remain nameless. And I made at some point telling me that my strategy was wrong. That was basically how he got me hooked in. He was like, yeah, I've seen what you've written and it's really good value. I just wonder if you're going after the wrong people. You're going after writers rather than business owners. And like, what was it he said? He said value for the masses as opposed to value for the select few. And I thought, value for the select few business owners in the world. How many million business owners are there in the world? I know there's a lot of writers, but don't forget, writers are business owners too a lot of the time. So let's not forget that.
That's true.
And I think what you're doing is absolutely right. It's kind of like, you're not going to, unless you white label, which I've done a little bit of, to be fair, I have done a little bit of white labeling for other writers and designers and some SEO consultants, but not a lot of it. So unless you're going down that route, you're not going to sell to other writers unless you solve a common pain point, which we know what that is, right? That's basically the title of this podcast for a lot of people, is how to land new clients, or how to manage the discovery call process, how to negotiate, how to look for clients in the first place. Some people may not even know that. So I think you're going down exactly the right route, and it bodes really well for you going forward.
Yeah, it's just another way to sort of diversify my revenue streams, but also my interests. I don't want to be writing all the time. Like, I like writing, but I don't want to get tired of it, and I don't want to do it too much. So coaching just gives another sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, just let me clear my throat and turn my alarm off.
Oh, you're right, mate.
Happens all the time, that. I need to start turning my phone off during these podcasts.
Anytime I'm on a call, I leave it in another room.
Yeah, I should probably do that. But what are some of the common mistakes that you see writers make when they're trying to get clients? It segues nicely from what we were talking about.
Good question. I think we'll highlight two. First of all, new freelance writers and even experienced freelance writers, they're just turning into bots. I actually posted about this on LinkedIn yesterday. I think it was yesterday. So let's just jump out of the professional writing space for a minute. And let's say you're trying to persuade a friend to go on a holiday or join a club that you're in, a club that you're participating in, whether it be, I don't know, martial arts club, a chess club. Those are just my interests. But are you gonna hit them with something that's formal and rigid? No, you're not going to hit them with something that's formal and rigid. So let's jump back into the writing world and say that you're going to reach out to a fun, zesty marketing firm or marketing agency. Are you going to ask them to whom it may concern? Like, heck no, you're not going to reach out like that. And we can't lose sight of the fact that we're humans. And I think that a lot of people are just becoming, especially with AI, and I don't know if it's people are the issue or if it's AI that's the issue, but I feel like there's not enough human in writing, and I think that a lot of people forget that you've got to be conversational. You've got to speak the language of your target audience, who you're reaching out to. You can't just have some robotic generic voice behind your writing. And I think that another big mistake, this is kind of separate, is that a lot of writers aren't actually learning the fundamentals of copywriting and content writing, and they're labeling themselves as self-taught. So every time I see self-taught, I just think, okay, this is a massive red flag. And it's just code for, like, I can't be bothered to invest in a few courses and just learn from genuine experts. For example, like, so many people on LinkedIn and Twitter, like, that they call copies. And it's just mind blowing. Like, for me, that's just an automatic DQ.
Yeah, I had that in a DM the other day.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, like, surely if you've done a copywriting course or a content writing course, or if you've really just studied a little bit and you're not just watched one YouTube video, you'd understand that it's copy, it's not copies. You know, it's mind blowing.
It was pretty scary when I read it, and the person said, I can write the social media copies. And then there were things like misplaced commas and spelling mistakes. And I thought, oh my God, this person's got no hope.
Yeah, like, I'm
the writer.
I'm all about breaking the rules. You know, that's actually how you do generate a lot of interest in your copy. You break some rules, but you can't be breaking those type of rules where it comes to a point that your writing is just unintelligible and no one can really decipher what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So we have arrived at the $1 million question, which is basically the title of the podcast. And hopefully people have already got some nuggets from watching this. But how do writers get new clients? What strategies have you found to be the most effective?
So there's business everywhere. Whatever anyone's saying, especially after the pandemic, where so many businesses had to go online, there is business everywhere. And client acquisition, it just seems to have withered down into cold DMs, cold emails, and everyone's just forgetting the other methods. While cold DMs, cold emails work exceptionally well, there are other methods. And for example, you know, there could be networking events, referrals from friends and family. There could be I posting on social media, just generating interest on social media, posting meaningful content and helpful content, actionable content, writing blogs. And I think a lot of people forget the power of in-person, offline networking. A lot of people have just, when you're a freelance writer, you spend so much time at your computer, on your screen. And I can tell you, I've met a lot of freelance writers that just have the personality of just a dead personality, to be honest. And I'm thinking there's, offline networking, which is it's way easier to sell in person and strike up a conversation in person. That's out of the question for you. So I think that a lot of people forget the importance of diversifying and testing different outreach methods and client acquisition strategies. So I do love cold email. I'll say that cold email is probably my favorite method. That's what I started out with. That's what still works for me. Email is definitely not dead, no matter what anyone's telling you. It's alive and well. It's thriving, and I like it because I can directly contact a decision maker in a business and present them with sort of a compelling case as to why they should work with me. And I normally pair that message with a helpful suggestion, like maybe a free audit, something really, really low friction. And that brings me to the point that it's really important to nurture your prospects and limit friction when you reach out to them. Like, don't shove any direct proposals down their throat. And for the love of God, please do some research like on your prospects and use it to your advantage. So let's say that let me think of an example. Let's say that you're a content writer, you're offering SEO content writing services, and there's a local business you really want to work with. And you type in some of their well, presumably some of their target keywords, and you see that they're ranking on pages 4 and 5 of Google. Like that's really strong data. So in a non sort of arrogant way, when you reach out to them in your cold email, cold message, whatever it is, highlight that and show that you are really clear on your offer and where you can add value. And that sort of just brings me to being clear on who you are and what you're offering with a simple 1-sentence pitch. It's, I help X achieve Y by doing Z. So X is your audience. Y, I help X achieve Y by doing Z. So you could say like, let me think of an example. You help offline brick and mortar stores achieve a new revenue stream by offering paid ads, something like that. So it's Z is just how you're delivering that value. Y is the value, and X is your audience. Probably should have said that the other way around, but that's just being clear on who you are is so important, and what you're offering. Because no business is going to hire you if you're not clear about what you're doing and what you're offering. If you're not confident in yourself, a business isn't going to be confident in you.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of interesting points you made that tie together, funnily enough. So when you talked about networking earlier on, I'm a member of my local BNI chapter. I think they have quite a few BNI chapters over in Australia. It's an international networking group. And when you stand up to do your 60 seconds, like your 60-second presentation about yourself, which you have to do every week, the ideal pitch will encompass X, Y, and Z of what you've just said there. So I help X audience achieve Y outcome through Z services. Because that's ultimately what people want to know. And this is why I personally, and I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but if we're going to talk about I'm just thinking about how writers price up their services, and everyone will have a different preference. And sometimes, country depending, they pay more by the word or by the hour. But really, ultimately, clients only care about two things: the quality of your work and the results you're going to get them, not how long it took you to do something. So that's why I always say, I will get you X and Y by doing this, or your X, I'm trying to think which way around it was, right? So I help X audience achieve Y. So for me, for example, if it's blog posts, it will be things like greater visibility, more organic revenue. I could go really geeky with it and say, more dwell time, but I don't tend to say that because most people don't know what the fuck that really means. But, in your head, what all these outcomes are, like more pages per session, people stay on the site longer, therefore they have more of a chance to get a positive impression of the brand, all that kind of stuff. So I just thought it was really interesting what you said, because when you're at a networking event and someone puts you on the spot and they want to know in one sentence or one line what you can do and who you are, it's really important that you have that in your head. And LinkedIn strap lines are a great thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What mine says, I think mine is like, I don't talk about the result because I'm trying to fit it all onto a strap line, but it'll be things like, I write blogs, LinkedIn posts, and landing pages for SMEs. And that's what I do. And I'll say to people things about visibility and capturing your tone of voice if I'm in, meeting them person to person. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting what you said there, because I think there are elements of all of those things that apply massively to real life scenarios.
Yeah, and like that 1-sentence pitch or that sort of X factor statement, it's going to change over time. Like if you've got multiple offers, you'll have multiple X factor statements, and it's fine that it's going to change over time. But you need one when you start out so that you're clear on what you're doing. For example, on LinkedIn, mine is, I think it goes, I help new freelance writers land their first clients with personalized, actionable roadmaps. So I help X, achieve Y by doing Z. So Z being the, or Z for the US audience, being the personalized, actionable roadmaps, Y, the value, land their first clients, and X, the audience, is new freelance writers. And it's really important, I think, a tip for other freelancers is just to underpromise and overdeliver, so that you're not stressing out about if you're doing something that's really results based. Underpromise, and obviously where it's helpful and valuable, to the degree where it's helpful and valuable for the business, but you can probably deliver more, and just overdeliver when you deliver your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to something you said there with the roadmaps, I don't want to give too much away because I know obviously people can find this out when they start working with you. But what would those roadmaps typically include? Like, what are some of the things you would look at?
Definitely how to get an edge when you're doing your cold outreach, how to stand out in a sea of average sort of self-taught freelancers that send generic copy and paste cold emails, cold messages, using specific tools, for example, Chrome extensions that I love that help cold outreach, just to give you that edge and get people to listen to you. As I was saying earlier, get people to listen to you, to hear you, and to take action on what you're saying, or to pique their interest. We really, in a call, we focus on an introductory session where we basically go over who they are, their fundamentals, how they're building authority, what they can do in their cold outreach that's different, what they've been trying, what to tweak. And then, I sort of just provide a personalized action plan just for them to follow. I think the problem with a lot of coaching is it's just a call and then they don't really get any sort of actionable steps after. And I think that's what my students love, is the actionable steps after each call.
Yeah, that's key. Really, it's the aftercare, and always going back to talking about landing pages or blog posts, always knowing what to do next. You think about a call to action.
Oh.
You got to practice what you preach, I guess, haven't you?
Exactly, 100%.
So this is a really loaded question for you. This might be the most loaded question I've asked on the podcast. But how would you assess the state of the freelance writer market at the moment?
That is a loaded question. It's changing, for better and for worse. So AI is obviously a major topic these days, and I'm really not the best person to ask about AI. Grammarly is as far as I go. I've never even logged into GPT.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, ChatGPT. Yeah.
GPT. Yeah. I don't know. Do you even log into it? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But AI is a massive topic, and from what I understand, AI these days, at least as of now, it's just an enhancer. I mean, you can use it to automate black and white and sort of speed up processes for black and white tasks like research. What else? Spelling, grammar checking, editing, that kind of stuff. Maybe rephrasing a few blocks of text as well. But people, and another thing that I've noticed to sort of evaluate the industry is that a lot of people say that it's saturated. And as I mentioned before, during the pandemic, so many businesses had to go online. And sorry, excuse me, a bit dry.
Yeah, don't worry, I've been the same. I've just muted my mic when I've done it. I've coughed 3 or 4 times in this.
Yeah. So after the pandemic, so many businesses were forced to go online or put more focus into e-commerce, and there's business everywhere. So anyone telling you that the market's saturated, it's not true. You just got to be a little bit more creative, and you'll get business. Yeah.
I think AI is a friend and a foe. I think it's definitely, and this, I can't think of a less blunt or brutal way to put this. So I'm just going to say what's in my heart. I think that AI is going to weed out all of the average or below average copywriters out there, and content writers. I think, or certainly, I don't really like to grade people like that, but let's say that the unimaginative writers, and then there will be quite a few out there. I think AI is basically going to wipe them out. But I think that the people who know how to use it correctly, i.e., not verbatim, not for the copy that you're writing, but for things like outlines, ideas. Now, to be fair, I didn't actually do it for this particular podcast, but for a lot of my podcasts, I will use AI to generate questions. But I'll say, here are the areas I want to touch on in the podcast. I'll obviously veto the questions that come back, and I'll probably use about, in an average podcast, I'll probably use about 25 to 50% of them, but definitely not verbatim. So the point is, it's helped me. I liken it to the what do you call those things at the bowling alley where, you know, when someone's really crap at bowling and they just throw the ball down the it's like a little ramp to stop it, or do they have that in Australia?
Oh, yeah.
You basically put the ball on it and you throw it down so that the ball doesn't veer off into the gutter. It's got more chance of going straight. AI is a bit like that, I think, at times. It's a bit like a an alleyway. It stops you getting the gutter balls, you know. But like you said, I would not rely on it heavily, because I don't know if you've had this, but I've had people write comments on my LinkedIn posts that I know are AI generated. They're just
100%. Like, that's what I mean. People are turning into bots, whether it's them or what they're using. People are turning into bots.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the next question I had written down, I think we've kind of answered it. How can writers navigate the challenges you just mentioned? I mean, apart from just don't be a fucking robot and use your brain when you're using these tools, is there anything else you'd like to say there about how writers can navigate the choppy waters of the freelance market at the moment?
I'd say regarding AI, don't overuse it. You know, who wants to read a blog post that's been generated by a program in one click? Not me, not you, and hopefully not any sensible freelance writers.
Definitely not Google.
Exactly. Definitely not Google. And that's where AI falls short. Like, a lot of the content I write is hyper local, and you've got to go out and do interviews or visit certain places or businesses to get necessary information. And there's no way that AI would be able to produce anything, not even something good, anything at all on the topic. So to protect yourself from AI in the future, this is for freelance writers, go as local as possible. If it's something that interests you, go as local and specific as possible. Because, like, if you're writing an article on I don't know, the best running shoes of trainers, or whatever you call them, sneakers of 2024, like, AI might be able to pump out a good article. But if there's a little neighborhood 20 minutes down the road and they've got a really good winery, and there's it's sort of like a neighborhood of wineries, I'm pretty sure AI is not going to be able to write a great blog post about those wineries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. A lot more creativity involved. And that's why I tend to focus on local SMEs, actually, because I love telling their story apart from anything else. And I know that it's impossible to be anyone else. But then one tip I would actually like to make on this podcast for writers is record your discovery calls. So when you're on a discovery call with clients, like, I don't know what tools you use, but I use Otter AI. And sometimes
I do use AI for that. Yeah.
Yeah, Otter. So that's it. Actually, that's a good example. Yeah, Otter AI. I would say the accuracy is probably around 60 to 70%. If I had to put a number on it, it's pretty good. But you have to, obviously, again, like with any AI tool, you need a human in charge to control it and navigate it and whatever else you want to say. But I would also say you could use StreamYard. Like, we're using that now. I use that for all my podcasts, and I record video and audio. So again, if you wanted to do a discovery call on that, or Zoom, you can obviously record on Zoom. So because that allows you to capture so much of the person's personality and character.
Yeah. And it allows you to focus.
Yeah.
Like, you're not there just typing notes. I was on a call with another freelancer who was actually just helping me out with the visuals of my LinkedIn profile. You know, she did a great job. And she was using this software called TLDV. It's an AI note taker, and that's fantastic. Like, that works really well. They've got a great free plan, and that's what I love about a lot of these sort of freemium softwares, is that they offer really great free plans, and they're often copy each other. So if you sort of run out of your limits, you can just join another one, and you really don't need to upgrade to a lot of paid plans when you're starting out. And as a freelancer, when you're starting out, keep your expenses low. There are a lot of free AI tools and softwares that can help you out and get you off the ground.
I was going to say, I mean, on that point, Otter is only something like, I mean, I say only, it does depend on the person, the budgets and stuff like that. But Otter, I think, is about $180 for the year, I want to say. I think it's like, yeah, it's about 10 to 15 Great British pounds. So it's not a lot. One thing that I have started doing, and I do use ChatGPT for this, to be fair, but I will record the the discovery call on Otter. And what I will do is, because Otter does give you a summary anyway, but it's not always the most accurate. So what I'll do is I'll take snippets off the transcript, because it's all written out in the transcript. Depending on the length of the call, you might not be able to get all of the transcripts onto ChatGPT anyway. But I literally just paste the transcripts into ChatGPT and say, write a summary of this conversation, focusing on the main adjectives this person used to describe their business, or some of the words that came up throughout the call, some of the keywords that came up, the sentiments. I get ChatGPT to give me the sentiment, and it just kind of nails it down a bit more. Like, you should have a really good idea after the call is finished what that business represents to that person and what that person does. But I think when ChatGPT can go through an hour and a half, 2 hours of a conversation and summarize it for you, when you come to write things like the homepage, the about page, or core values, like, it makes it so much easier if you've got those notes out in front of you, just to prompt you if you need it.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for that. That's an insight for me.
I found it helps. I mean, again, it's always what you and I are talking about. It's always from our own experience. It might not work as well for someone else, but it's definitely worked well for me. Anyway, we finished. I was just looking through the questions, and we've gone through it all. That was awesome. Thank you so much. I'll
just jump back to the just one sec, back to the navigating the challenges. When it comes to the market being saturated, again, make sure your offer is clear and strong, and make sure that you're testing everything. So if I saw a guy on LinkedIn tell me he tried 500 cold emails and never had a response. And I was thinking, mate, like, it's probably not for you. Try something else. Like, be a human. Like, go out and strike up a conversation, go to a networking event, ask family and friends for referrals. If cold email isn't working for you, it's not working for you. I know a lot of people that get tons of clients just from a few cold DMs, and I'm thinking, how the heck did you do that? But cold email works for me. I do a lot of good networking in person. I'm pretty comfortable talking to people I don't know, so I use that as a strength, because I know a lot of people are sometimes intimidated to just strike up a conversation with someone in public, and just test. That's what marketing's all about, not just in your cold outreach and your client acquisition, but marketing's all about testing, and just testing to see what works for you.
You've just reminded me of a mental note that I made earlier, and I'm glad you did cut in there, because otherwise I'd have forgotten to ask this. So I actually had two final sort of follow-up questions. The first one was which networking groups you attend, and the second one was, I guess, which like what email templates work for you in terms of cold email. So I'm really curious to know both of those things. So if we start with the networking one, what groups are you typically a part of, or what networking events do you attend that other people be able to attend as well?
In terms of networking events, I like to go to a lot of startup talks, like whether it's a sort of a startup company a lot in the tech space, talking about their product, what they're launching. I actually like sometimes pitches are live. I like going to watch pitches and just meeting people through there. And even Fiverr has an annual sort of meetup in major cities around the world, and I've been fortunate enough to go to the one in Sydney, the one in Mexico City. Those were great to just meet other people. But I'm also part of a mentorship program, and I've got a mentor, and I think that once you have the budget, getting yourself a mentor that really knows what they're talking about, because there are a lot of crappy mentors out there that don't practice what they preach. But if you've got a mentor and you're committed, you can take action, that's a fast track to success. And my mentorship program, I think it focuses on freelancing as a business, and also email copywriting and email marketing. There's about 100 people in there, and that maybe won't be good for my freelance writing services, but maybe there are some people in there that might be interested in coaching or partnering up, and you just got to put yourself out there,
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other question was just about the cold email templates that you use, and some of the hooks that you have found have worked for you.
I mean, honestly, sometimes I just, if I'm confident, I just do my name and the business's name, like a dash as the subject line. Like, that's it. Like, something quite direct. I've noticed that even that gets opened quite a lot. Because I do use, again, coming back to tools, I do use tools to sort of track to see if an email's being opened, if a link's being clicked. I like to put a clickable link at the bottom of my cold email, maybe a link to my LinkedIn profile, just to show that I'm a real person. I'm not a bot writing something. It shows me that they've read the whole message. They've taken interest, like they've opened it. Because the subject line's role is just to get people to open the email. And then you've got your hook at the top. And that's just to get people to read the body copy. And then you've got your body copy down to a call to action. I don't really have a call to action. I've just got a few open-ended questions, low friction, but I do have a link to my LinkedIn profile. And if they click, I'm pretty sure they're interested in, at least to some degree. And it just shows that they've read all of my copy, because cold outreach, it's copy in itself. And that's where I think that if you're a content writer, you also need to know the fundamentals of copywriting when you do your cold outreach. So things that work are, if you're reaching out to an agency, for example, go onto their website, see who they're working with. Maybe if you want to be an email copywriter, go to one of their clients' websites and write a quick short sample email, because you're not going to write a whole blog post for every business you reach out to. But if it's something short, like maybe social media copywriting or email copywriting, write a quick sample for one of the clients, just to show that you're really interested and it's not a mass send, copy and paste, blasted cold pitch. I think that personalization is key, but personalization does not mean, hey, first name. It means really going in, understanding their business, tapping into their pain points, agitating those pain points, and providing a low friction sort of just a way to sort of open the door for a potential meaningful conversation.
Yeah, I really like that. Personalization is not just putting their first name, because honestly, I'll start reading an email and it'll say, hey, Neil, really interested in the challenge you face at 49 Marketing. And I'll think, okay, bit of a rocky start, but we'll let it go. Let's keep reading. And then the rest of it is just a copy and paste job. And you think there's nothing in there that talks about my business, my offering, like the challenges I face, like not even an observation on their website. So there's I've given a shout out to this guy before, and he's actually coming on to the next podcast. A guy called Jake Powell. He's an SEO specialist based in England. And he's been doing some personalized videos for people. So he's been reaching out to businesses and saying to them, really like this part of your website, but this part of your website could be better. And here's how I can help you. And I think that's brilliant, because that's so personalized. It shows that he's taken the time to go onto their website, diagnose the problems, I guess you could call it, and give them free value. He is literally giving them free value by saying, I think we can do X, Y, and Z. He's not giving the whole game away, but he's giving 100%. Them enough value to entice them. And I think that's a brilliant strategy. And that's exactly what more writers should be doing.
And I think that when you do that, when you're doing, for example, a free audit for a client, ask if they want it. Don't shove it down their throat like that. Even if you're doing something really nice for free, giving them tons of value, like don't shove it down their throat. Ask, hey, like, would this little free audit that I've done be of interest to you? If so, I can send it over. Just let me know. Keep everything as low friction as possible, because they're not your friend. Like, you don't know them. It's just a stranger reaching out to you. They don't have to do business with you. You're asking to do business with them. So put the ball in their court.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad we had that last 6 or 7 minutes, because we came, you came out with some amazing insights there as well, as you did throughout the podcast, Antoine. So thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you about any of the topics we've discussed?
So I'm not really much of a social media guy. So LinkedIn is definitely the best place. If you've got any questions, on Fridays, I leave my calendar open for sort of 15-minute ask me anything sessions. You don't have to be a freelance writer. You can just be a freelancer. And, if you want to crack open a beer and talk shop, we can do that. And I'm also on Twitter, but that's a work in progress. I'm not the biggest fan of that platform.
No, or what did you say earlier? X for the cool kids. I like that.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's 9:05 p.m. over in Victoria now. So I'm going to let you go and enjoy your gym session. I'm sure you'll smash it. And again, thank you so much for coming on.
No worries, mate. Absolutely.
Okay, I think the audio went a bit dead there, but that was not your fault. I'm sure that was just a Wi-Fi issue, but we'll assume you said. Thank you so much, mate. And thanks, Antoine.
Nah, you're right, mate. Thank you.